In the year 2067, when Earth has suffered irreversible damage due to climate change. In this ravaged world, plants have completely disappeared, leading to a drastic decline in atmospheric oxygen. To survive, people must purchase synthetic oxygen, which has become a vital resource. Darkness shrouds 99% of the planet, and suffocation claims countless lives. Amidst this bleak landscape, a single city in Australia perseveres, thanks to the efforts of the Chronocor Corporation, which produces artificial oxygen. However, this life-sustaining solution comes with a dire consequence, a deadly disease known as the sickness that afflicts those who rely on the synthetic oxygen. With the human race facing the brink of extinction within just a few years, hope hangs by a thread. Ethan White, a citizen of the surviving Australian city, and his friend Jude work diligently as mechanics at the Chronocorp Corporation. As the company races against time to find a cure for the sickness and a solution to the world's plight, Ethan grapples with a personal struggle. His wife, Xanthi, has fallen ill with the sickness. To support her, Ethan toils day and night to provide her with higher quality oxygen. One fateful day, as Ethan and Jude are occupied with their duties in the tunnel, they are unexpectedly summoned to the office of Regina Jackson, Chronocorp's CTO of particle research. Introducing herself to the pair, Regina gravely informs them that humanity's extinction is imminent if the current conditions persist. She then discloses that Ethan is uniquely suited to help avert this catastrophe and save the human race. Initially bewildered and skeptical, Ethan hesitates to accept Regina's claims, but she urges him to visit their laboratory to learn more. Upon entering the lab, Ethan is greeted by an impressive array of massive machinery. He meets Billy Mitchell, a lab doctor, who briefly examines Ethan's wrist device. The team then reveals to Ethan that his father, Dr. Richard White, had initiated this project 2 decades prior. Standing before them is a remarkable invention, a time machine named the Chronicle. During the initial experiment with the Chronicle, the researchers had sent radio waves into the machine to explore the unknown future. Their findings indicated that in the year 2474, a full 407 years later, Earth would once again be rich with plant life, providing sufficient oxygen to support human existence. This discovery leads the team to surmise that if humanity persists centuries into the future, it must have found answers to the challenges threatening their present world. The scientists, however, encountered a perplexing phenomenon. The radio waves they transmitted returned altered. Upon decoding the message, they discovered that someone from the future had sent them a directive: send Ethan White. Consequently, Regina and her team now hope to dispatch Ethan into the future to retrieve the sought-after cure. Ethan is utterly astounded by this revelation, finding it hard to believe Regina's claims. Moreover, he is reluctant to leave his ailing wife and venture into the unknown future. He thus declines their request for assistance. Later, while sharing a meal with Jude at a diner and enjoying some crisp oxygen, the conversation turns to the proposed plan. Jude attempts to convince Ethan to accept the mission and help save humanity, but Ethan dismisses the idea, expressing his determination not to emulate his absent father. Ethan harbors a deep resentment towards his father, who vanished 20 years ago, leaving him and his mother behind. Tragically, his mother was killed when he was just a child, and he has since been raised by Jude, a man he regards as both an older brother and a best friend. Ethan blames his father for abandoning them in pursuit of the project and is determined not to follow the same path by leaving his sick wife behind. Nevertheless, Jude ultimately persuades him to reconsider, arguing that finding the cure is the only way to save his wife's life. Ethan's thoughts drift back to his 8th birthday, when his father gifted him a peculiar box. As he reached inside, a device clamped onto his wrist, drawing blood. Richard had secured a permanent hand device on his young son, the purpose of which remains a mystery to Ethan even years later. At home, Ethan shares the day's events with Xanthi, who also encourages him to embark on the mission. The next morning, Ethan inscribes, "I will find my way back to you," on a metal flower, and leaves it beside his sleeping wife. He returns to Regina's office, stipulating that if he can retrieve only one cure, it must be administered to Xanthi first. Regina agrees, and they proceed to the lab. Dr. Mitchell introduces Ethan to the specialized suit he must don before entering the time machine. As the team outlines the mission, Ethan realizes they have no concrete plan. They are uncertain about what he will encounter or who he will meet on the other side. Despite this, Ethan dons the suit and they equip him with an AI device called Archie. Archie will constantly relay Ethan's vitals to the lab and assist with navigation. With everything in place, they send Ethan into the machine, launching him into the unknown future. Within the time machine, Ethan hurtles through time at breakneck speed. He emerges from the sky, plummeting into a lush, unfamiliar jungle. Friction from the air ignites his suit, prompting him to quickly shed it. As he takes in his surroundings, he is struck by the breathtaking beauty of the revived natural environment. Trees and pure oxygen have returned, signaling a transformed world. Following Archie's guidance, he comes across a bunker door and the chilling sight of a skeleton lying nearby, a bullet hole in its skull. To his horror, he recognizes the name tag as his own. Ethan retrieves the deceased version of himself's Archie device and plays the final recording. He hears a man declare that this is the only option before firing a shot. The device abruptly loses power, leaving Ethan shaken by the grim fate he believes awaits him. He then observes the wrist device on the skeleton, which appears identical to his own, except for the glowing green light, a stark contrast to the red light that has shown on Ethan's device his entire life. As night falls, Ethan builds a fire and consumes wild berries for sustenance. Unbeknownst to him, the berries are toxic, causing him to vomit and slip into unconsciousness. When Ethan awakens, he is astonished to find Jude by his side. It seems that the lab had monitored his vitals and detected the poisoning, prompting them to dispatch Jude into the future with an antidote to save him. Despite their reunion, Ethan and Jude are troubled by the continued presence of his skeletal remains, signifying that his destiny remains unaltered. Using Archie, they locate another door that scans Ethan's eye for access. Upon entering, a monitor greets him and requests a DNA sample. As he consents, his wrist device activates, drawing blood and turning green. The room's lights illuminate, revealing that they are now inside the Chronocorp lab, 407 years in the future. The time machine stands before them as well. Jude is elated, believing they now have the means to return to the past. However, Ethan is less optimistic, asserting that they have not yet changed anything, and he is still destined to meet the same grisly end as the skeletal Ethan. Ethan examines the system log and discovers a holographic recording left by his father. In the message, his father details that the time machine's initial purpose was to gather information about oxygen levels on the future Earth and relay it back to the past. However, upon activating the time machine for the first time, he received a request to send his son into the future. Despite reservations, he decided to comply and prepared a DNA verification specifically for Ethan. Ethan and Jude soon realize that the time machine cannot take them back to the past due to its nearly depleted battery after 407 years. To make matters worse, the lab's nuclear power core malfunctions upon activation, putting them at risk of a nuclear explosion in just 4 hours. With time running out, they must quickly find a way to repair the time machine and travel back before disaster strikes. Venturing outside, they discover a ruined city overtaken by greenery, devoid of human life. Earth appears to be healing itself following human extinction, as evidenced by the numerous scattered skeletal remains. Ethan locates his wife's home, where he finds her bones, plunging him into despair. Jude urges him to return to the past, arguing that a cure for the sickness seems non-existent even in this future world. Jude's words, however, raise Ethan's suspicions. He powers up the rusty Archie to replay the recording, recognizing Jude's voice as the one who shot him. As Jude aims his gun at Ethan, he vehemently denies that he would ever shoot his friend. Ethan ultimately resolves to complete the mission first, and together they manage to repair the power core and make their way back to the lab. With the Chronicle system operational, Ethan and Jude can now return to the past. They simply need to wait 37 minutes for the portal to launch. Once the countdown reaches 0, the portal will connect to 2067 for approximately 30 seconds. However, Ethan discovers that his body still remains behind a door in the same location, indicating that they have not altered the future. Determined to uncover the truth, Ethan removes the battery from his current Archie and inserts it into the rusty one. This grants him access to another video, which confirms that his future self will indeed be killed by Jude. Jude admits that he doesn't believe the future can be changed and that he's only trying to protect Ethan. Struggling to accept this, Ethan locks his brother in a room and plays back his father's holographic log from the day he died. Ethan soon uncovers a conversation between Chronocorp's CTO, Regina Jackson, and his father. It becomes apparent that Ethan's father intended to use the time machine to save all of humanity by finding a cure, while the CTO planned to escape the dying era with a select few. However, regardless of which plan they follow, someone must journey into the future and activate the time machine. Safe transport of living matter through time requires a functioning link from both ends. To thwart the CTO's plan, Ethan's father locks the time machine and sets Ethan's DNA as the verification key. Enraged, the CTO immediately kills him. She then instructs Jude to murder Ethan's mother and assume the role of his guardian, intending to one day use Ethan's wristband for access to the future. Ethan is shocked by this revelation. The man he considered a brother is actually the one who killed his mother and plans to kill him as well. He also realizes that he had misunderstood his father, who never intended to abandon his family. Upon realizing that Regina intends to bring only a chosen few into the future, Ethan attempts to shut down the time machine. However, Jude intervenes, revealing that the CTO sent him to ensure Ethan repairs the power failure and activates the time machine. Once completed, Jude is supposed to kill Ethan. Over the years, though, Jude has developed a strong emotional bond with Ethan. Filled with guilt over the pain he has caused his brother-like friend, Jude chooses to shoot himself instead. Driven by a mix of rage and regret, Ethan becomes determined to fulfill his father's dying wish of finding a cure to save the suffering humans. He examines the monitor and discovers the original message written by his father. Ethan deduces that he himself sent the message, "Send Ethan White." Consequently, he encodes the message once more, along with additional information, and transmits it to the past. Back in the year 2067, the CTO and a group of privileged individuals anxiously await the activation of the time machine. Much to their surprise, though, the machine sends back hundreds of extinct plants and a recording of Ethan's father's murder. Shortly after, the time machine is destroyed by Ethan, causing the CTO's plan to crumble. Ultimately, the CTO is arrested for the murder. The plants sent back to 2067 are cultivated to rejuvenate the planet. Xanthi receives a flower from Ethan and comes to understand his choice. Although Ethan must remain in the future alone, he buries Jude and forgives him. A butterfly catches Ethan's eye and leads him back to the same entrance. To his delight, he notices that the remains of his future self have vanished. He rushes to examine the world outside and feels a sense of relief when he sees a futuristic, eco-friendly city in place of the desolate one from before. Ethan's decision has altered the future of humanity. And that, my friends, marks the finale of this exhilarating episode. If you found yourself thoroughly entertained, don't hesitate to smash that like button and subscribe to our ever-growing community. Till the next time, see ya.